Welcome to Grace Mitchell Stories, where every tale reminds us of the power of love, kindness, and courage. Today's story begins with a child, a drawing, and a soldier whose reaction would leave an entire room in silence. The elementary school classroom buzzed with chatter as crayons rolled across desks, paper crinkled, and children bent over their work. It was Heroes Week at Maplewood Elementary, a small-town school that celebrated community helpers and everyday champions. For most of the students, the assignment was simple. Draw a picture of a hero. Some drew firefighters battling flames, others sketched police cars with sirens blazing. A few even drew their mothers and fathers cooking meals or fixing cars. But in the back row sat 8-year-old Lily Carter, small for her age, with long blonde hair that spilled across her shoulders and eyes that held a softness far older than her years. Lily didn't rush like the others. She sat quietly, clutching a crayon, staring at her blank page. To her, a hero wasn't a distant figure in a storybook. A hero was her father. Sergeant Daniel Carter had been deployed overseas for most of Lily's life. She knew him from pictures, from shaky video calls, from the dog tags her mother kept beside her bed. He wasn't there for school plays or bedtime stories. But every letter, every rare call, carried with it a love so strong that Lily believed her dad was the bravest man alive. And so, with steady hands, she began to draw. A tall soldier in uniform, standing beneath a sky filled with stars. Beside him, a little girl holding his hand, smiling. Across the bottom, in uneven letters, she wrote, "My daddy, my hero." The bell rang, signaling the end of the day. The teacher, Mrs. Parker, collected the drawings, planning to display them at Friday's assembly, an event where local heroes would be invited to see the children's art. Lily handed hers over shyly, unaware of how much weight that single piece of paper would soon carry. Friday arrived. The gymnasium was filled with parents, children, and invited guest firefighters in crisp uniforms, police officers in polished badges, nurses in scrubs. The chatter of families echoed against the high walls. At the front, tables were covered with the children's drawings, arranged for everyone to see. Mrs. Parker stepped to the microphone. "Welcome everyone to Heroes Week. Today, our students are proud to honor those who keep us safe, care for us, and inspire us." Applause filled the room. Proud smiles lit the faces of men and women in uniform. Children tugged on their parents' sleeves, pointing out their drawings. And then came Lily's turn. Mrs. Parker held up the picture with care. "This drawing," she said softly, "was made by Lily Carter from 3rd grade. She wanted to share who her hero is." Lily shifted nervously in her seat as all eyes turned toward the front. Her mother, seated beside her, squeezed her hand gently. Mrs. Parker turned the picture for the audience to see. A soldier, a little girl, words written in a child's hand. "My daddy, my hero." The room grew still, because what most of them didn't know was that Sergeant Daniel Carter had returned home only 2 days earlier. After years away, and sitting quietly near the back, in uniform, was the very soldier in Lily's drawing. The air seemed to thicken as eyes darted toward him. His broad shoulders, the medals on his chest, the unmistakable fatigue of a man who had carried too much. His face, weathered by time and battle, softened as he stared at the picture. Daniel hadn't known Lily would draw him. He hadn't known his daughter thought of him as her hero. For years, he had worried that his absence, his missed birthdays, his long silences, had made him a stranger to her. He had feared she might resent him, or worse, forget him. But here, in crayon lines and simple words, was the truth. Her daddy, her hero. He stood slowly, almost reluctantly, as if the weight of the moment pressed on his chest. The scrape of his chair echoed through the hushed gym. All eyes followed him as he walked forward, his boots heavy against the polished floor. Children gasped and whispered. One boy tugged his mother's sleeve and whispered, "That's the soldier from the picture." Another little girl said in awe, "She drew her real daddy." Even the firefighters and police officers shifted in their seats, their expressions softening with respect. Lily turned, her eyes widened, and then recognition sparked. "Daddy?" Her small voice cut through the silence, filled with pure joy. She shot up from her seat, the chair clattering behind her, and ran across the gym, arms outstretched, tears already streaming down her cheeks. Daniel dropped to his knees just as she reached him, scooping her into his arms. She clung to him fiercely, sobbing into his shoulder. He held her close, his own tears falling freely now, unashamed before the entire room. The picture slipped from Mrs. Parker's hands, fluttering gently to the floor like a flag lowering in honor. No one moved. No one spoke for a long, fragile moment. The only sound was a little girl crying in her father's embrace and the quiet sob of a soldier who realized his daughter's love had never wavered. When Daniel finally found his voice, it broke. "I'm so sorry I wasn't here, Lily, but you never stopped believing in me." He pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. "You made me your hero. But the truth is, you're mine." Gasps rippled through the audience. Mothers dabbed their eyes. Fathers shifted, swallowing hard. Children clutched at their parents' hands, sensing the weight of the moment, even if they couldn't fully understand it. Mrs. Parker herself wiped a tear and spoke softly into the microphone. "Sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones we wait for, and sometimes the bravest hearts belong to children." Daniel rose, holding Lily in his arms. He turned toward the audience, his voice steady now. "I wore this uniform for my country, but today I stand here not as a soldier, but as a father who was given more grace than he deserved." He paused, looking at his daughter, then back to the room. "If you want to know what a hero looks like, look at her." The room erupted into applause. It wasn't the polite clapping of an assembly. It was raw, thunderous, born from hearts stirred to their core. Some people stood, others shouted their support. And still, Daniel held his daughter close, unwilling to let go. When the assembly dismissed, people crowded around. A firefighter knelt before Lily and said, "You know, kiddo, you're braver than most of us in uniform." She blushed and squeezed her father's hand. An older nurse wiped her eyes, whispering, "This is why we serve so families like yours can be together again." Outside the school, the autumn air was crisp. Children poured out, chattering about what they'd just seen. Some clutched their own drawings tighter, realizing that heroes weren't always faraway figures, they could be family. Daniel lifted Lily onto his shoulders, carrying her across the playground as other kids waved. She giggled, her voice bright and unburdened. For once, the years apart seemed smaller, healed by the simple fact that he was home, and she could hold him again. Lily's mother walked beside them, tears of relief shining in her eyes. She slipped her arm through Daniel's and whispered, "You were afraid she'd forget." But she never did. Daniel glanced up at Lily, who was humming happily, still clutching her crayon drawing. His heart swelled. "I think she reminded me who I am." That evening, the family sat around their small kitchen table for the first time in years. No ceremony, no speeches, just laughter, stories, and the warmth of being together. The picture lay in the center, still marked by little hands and colorful crayons. A quiet reminder of the day love had silenced an entire room. From that moment, the town carried the memory like a shared treasure. People spoke of it in barbershops, diners, and Sunday services. The day a little girl's drawing reminded everyone of sacrifice, faith, and the unshakable bond between a child and her father. Because sometimes it takes the innocence of a child to remind the world that real heroes aren't made by medals or battles, but by love. So remember this: never underestimate the love of a child. It can break silence, heal wounds, and remind us that even the bravest warriors need someone to call them daddy. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Grace Mitchell Stories, where every week we share powerful tales of kindness, love, and hope that remind us of what truly matters most.